Hi there, and welcome to the latest episode from CephTV. Today we're going to be something really fantastic. I've been very fortunate to interview the creator and owner of the Tonmo website. If you're not familiar with this website, it's a forum for pet cephalopod keepers. Now, many of you may be surprised to know that actually there is a big market for pet cephalopods, particularly in the US and not so much in Europe and Asia and so on. But in the US, there is a noticeable number of pet ceph keepers. And this is long before the recent documentaries like My Octopus Teacher and the documentary about living with an octopus. And in fact, Tonmo has been going for nearly over 20 years now. So sit back, enjoy this interview, and if you've got any questions, please ask in the chat bar.
Hi, Gavin. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so it's a really common question. I think it goes back to the early 90s. It's hard for me to answer, but if I go back to when I first got a book on humpback whales, but that kind of got me intrigued with the ocean and its creatures, probably a bit more so than I had been as a child. That book led me to Monsters of the Sea by Richard Ellis, which featured cephalopods prominently. Cephalopods are just so mysterious. They remain that way. There's so much to know about these creatures, and I think it's the unknown that continues to pull me in, and I'm sure that's true of many of my fellow ceph heads. Favorite species, that's another hard one. There are hundreds of cephalopod species, as we know, and many of them remain mysterious. There are several species that certainly have not been discovered yet. For the ones that I'm familiar with, certainly the flamboyant cuttlefish is an amazing cephalopod. Just to see them and their behaviors, the passing cloud effect, all the mimicry that they possess. They're just incredible, really cool to watch. Of course, the large cephalopods like Masonicatus and Architeuthis, they're just amazing to think about and behold. And for the home aquarium, I think I'd have to go with the California two-spot octopus, the Bimac. That's just a really laid-back, perfectly situated cephalopod, I think, for the home aquarium, for those who are into that. Summary. So, right out of college, I joined Prodigy Services Company. But in those early years, in the early days of the internet, community was a big thing, online community. And Prodigy had a number of community bulletin boards. And so I ran some of those bulletin boards. Around the mid 90s, I got a domain that was a representation of my name, Tony Morelli. It was tonmo.com. Tonmo was kind of my username and identity online. And I used it to talk about myself, what I had for dinner last night, and my family thought it was fun. But so, I ended up coming upon the realization that I wanted to choose a topic that I was interested in, and cephalopods qualified. And I wanted to I wanted to make it an acronym. And it's not a very good acronym, but it stands for the Octopus News Magazine Online. So I had a domain, and I backed into it with a topic, and it kind of took off from there. Well, Tonmo.com is an online community dedicated to cephalopods. So anything and everything pertaining to cephalopods is welcome within the community. My initial plan was to provide news articles about cephalopods, like giant squid strandings, or just research papers pertaining to octopus. But I quickly found that a lot of people wanted to engage and talk about it, and so I established the forums and really got into building the community around it after probably a year or two of culling content and publishing it, kind of like as an editor of the website. More on that. It changed over the years for sure. One of the things that was apparent early on was that there was this Usenet group, which was a way of collaborating back in the 90s. There was a group called FastMall, but it was comprised of scientists. And actually, to get into the FastMall discussion group, I believe you had to scan your credentials, like you had to demonstrate that you had a PhD or that you were well on your way. And so some of the scientists within that community were growing frustrated at the closed nature of it. I think there were a number that realized that, the internet revolution was underway. It turns out scientists love it when you read their papers, and we did get healthy scientific participation in the early years, and actually throughout right up to today. But in those early years, certainly Dr. James Wood, Dr. Steve O'Shea, and many others. And then something else happened, and that was the hobbyist community, meaning people who keep aquariums in their homes, saltwater tanks. They never expected the website to become such a important resource for people with home saltwater tanks. And the interactions that they had with scientists was mutually beneficial for both communities. Scientists highly valued the observations that the hobbyists were making. Was really important to the scientists who may be landlocked but studying and reading papers and doing research, conducting research. It's hard to get out into the ocean. Obviously, there's a lot of logistics associated with that. And so keeping cephalopods in home aquariums is very important in terms of furthering our understanding of them. Yeah, there are many issues with keeping cephalopods in home aquariums, for sure. To be clear, I've never owned one for that reason. It's a huge responsibility and it takes a lot of work. You have to cycle the tank appropriately. You have to ensure that the parameters are correct all the time. Are just a few of the difficulties. Of course, they have a very short lifespan, so it's not for everybody. Don't encourage it, honestly, with the exception of those who are really committed to doing it right. It's not something that anyone should do casually. As we know, cephalopods are really smart. We're still studying and learning, and so it's really important to take that responsibility seriously. The reality is that these creatures they're harvested for food in huge numbers worldwide. We've had members who have actually saved live cephalopods from their local fish market and brought them home to their home tank and raised them and kept them for the better part of a year. That's something that can be done unless it's something that you're really ready to do and do it properly. And that means documenting what you've done and sharing your findings and being open to receiving input. Citizen science can help by, as I just mentioned, through documentation, collaboration, being forthright with your discoveries, whether mundane or insightful. I think it's just important to document. And again, that's what our Cephalopod Journals forum is there for. I do still think that there's a place for long form content, and Tonmo is certainly one of those places where folks can do that. And I think something like keeping cephalopods is immersive enough that it warrants long form content. And so I think as citizen scientists, if you will, or people practicing citizen science, just bring it forward. Yeah, I mean, I think the future is very interesting with emerging technologies and being able to take advantage of data and observations. There's some very interesting things being done out of the marine biological laboratories in Woods Hole, for example, on video analytics and studying cephalopods and how they behave. I think that there's a lot there that will ultimately translate to the health and well-being of cephalopods, because a lot of the scientific study that happens today is, obviously in the interests of science and medicine for our own well-being and advancing our own technologies and capabilities. Keeping cephalopods as pets, it's probably, unless there's heavy regulation, and there could be, but unless that happens, it's going to continue to be a trade. They're available from local fish stores. People get them, they bring them home, and then they say, what do I do? Or they just purchase live rock and they have a hitchhiker, as they call them. Suddenly they're an owner of an octopus. That happens a lot. I don't think this trade is going anywhere. I hope it does get better. I hope we leverage technology to make ourselves smarter about it. I've got plans. We're only 21 years into it, so I'm looking forward to the next 21. We're about to celebrate our 21st in May. Every anniversary brings me a lot of personal joy. I never thought it would be something that connects so many people with such a specific interest. So I'm very fulfilled to have started the community and to continue to give back to the community by basically offering a place where people can come and be sure that they're gonna be reading about or collaborating about cephalopods. Social media did upend forum discussion and really sucked the life out of the room, if you will. But if you also haven't noticed, there's a bit of an online revolution that has been going on and continues to go on. And I think that, coupled with the emerging technology opportunities, I think there's some interesting things to happen there. So I have some ideas about the platform and ways we can go. We have a YouTube channel. We have we're on all the social media platforms to some level or another. So it's good to have a presence there. But I do think that there is value to what we're trying to do at our core, and I'm committed to taking that forward. The one thing I haven't mentioned is the biennial Cephalopod conference, which is one of the absolutely best things about running this site. Has been being able to get together in person with these scientists and these hobbyists and these enthusiasts every 2 years. We've done it on both coasts of the United States. Often we would alternate between San Francisco or Monterey Bay and Woods Hole, Massachusetts, or Sarasota. We had to postpone 2020 due to COVID, but I do hope to get back into planning this year, and maybe we'll do our 8th event in 2022 is my hope. Maybe go back to Marine Biological Laboratory in Woods Hole. Just an amazing place with amazing people, amazing research happening there. So that is also within my plans. I want to continue that. Let's get this pandemic contained and behind us, and then we'll be right back at that. I suppose I could be doing something online, but we're always online. So I'm just really focused on having an in-person conference. Doing that again. I'm really looking forward to it. And Gavin, I want to thank you for everything that you're doing with citizen science, with cephalopods. Thank you for your contributions to Tonmo. And I look forward to collaborating with you further in the days, weeks, months, years to come. Keep up the great work. Thanks again.
Tony, thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed listening to your answers and learned a lot about your organisation and also about you. I really enjoyed learning how interested you are in cephalopods and the origins of your group and your website. And I know it's got a very, very long, successful future ahead of it, and I hope we guys can work together again. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it out there, and we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to our channel. The more subscriptions we get, the more we can do, the more we can create for you guys. And thanks again, and we will see you soon. That's it from the Cephalopod Citizen Science Project.